reading this right now, using an invention from people who don't exist anymore. Every letter you see, every word you type, every message you send, it all traces back to a civilization so mysterious that for 2,000 years, we only knew their story through the eyes of their enemies. The Phoenicians ruled the seas, connected continents, and gave humanity its greatest gift, the alphabet. Then they vanished so completely that until 2025, just months ago, we didn't even know if the people we called Phoenicians in the West were actually Phoenician at all. What I'm about to show you is a historical detective story with a twist that changes everything we know about identity, empire, and survival. Because the Phoenicians didn't just disappear, they pulled off the ultimate cultural heist, one that's still playing out in your life today. Imagine the ancient world of 1000 BC, where literacy was a privilege reserved for scribes who spent years mastering labyrinthine writing systems. Egyptian hieroglyphs demanded fluency in over 700 intricate symbols. Mesopotamian cuneiform was even more daunting, requiring knowledge of hundreds of wedge-shaped characters pressed into clay. Against this backdrop of complexity, the Phoenicians, master traders sailing from their bustling ports along what is now Lebanon's coast, engineered one of history's most elegant solutions. Rather than adding to the tangle of symbols that dominated ancient writing, they stripped it down to its essence. Just 22 characters that could represent every sound in their language. This wasn't merely simplification, it was democratization. Suddenly, merchants and sailors could write without years of scribal training. Their elegant solution became the foundation for Greek, Latin, and most modern alphabets, transforming human communication forever. 22 letters, that's it, each representing a single sound. But here's what's mind-blowing, and this is something most people don't realize. They didn't just create an alphabet, they created your alphabet. The letter A, that's Aleph, their word for ox. The letter B, Beth, their word for house. And wait until you hear what recent genetic testing revealed about who was actually using this alphabet in their colonies. That bombshell is coming up. But first, you need to understand why this 22-letter system was such a game changer. Before the Phoenicians, literacy was like a secret club. Only professional scribes could read and write, spending years mastering complex systems. The Phoenicians' alphabet? You could learn it in weeks. Think about it. What happens when you suddenly democratize the most powerful technology of communication? Everything explodes. Trade becomes easier. Ideas spread faster. Within centuries, their alphabet had traveled to Greece, where it became the foundation for Homer's epics, to Rome, where it became the Latin script you're reading right now, to the Middle East, where it evolved into Arabic and Hebrew. Today, over 4 billion people use writing systems descended from those 22 Phoenician letters. Not bad for a civilization that disappeared. But the Phoenicians weren't just innovators. They were the ancient world's first global empire. And they did it without armies. Their weapon? The sea itself. While other civilizations conquered through force, the Phoenicians conquered through commerce. They built ships faster than anyone else's, navigated by the North Star when others hugged coastlines, and created a trade network that stretched from Lebanon to Spain. Their secret sauce, Tyrian purple, a dye so expensive it literally became the color of royalty. It took 10,000 sea snails to make 1 gram of dye. 1 gram. That's why we still say royal purple today. Here's where it gets interesting. the Phoenicians didn't colonize like Romans. They franchised like McDonald's. They'd establish trading posts, intermarry with locals, and create a cultural network held together by commerce and shared identity. This franchise model was so successful that by 800 BC, if you sailed anywhere in the Mediterranean, you'd find Phoenician influence. Their greatest franchise? Carthage. Founded by Queen Dido in 814 BC, it became so powerful it eventually challenged Rome itself. But here's where our story takes a dark turn, because two empires were about to collide with devastating consequences. The 8th century BC brought terror from the east, the Assyrian Empire. These weren't your typical ancient conquerors. They were a military machine that specialized in psychological warfare. The Assyrians would besiege cities, massacre populations, and deport entire peoples. When they reached the Mediterranean coast, the Phoenician city-states faced a choice: submit or be destroyed. Most chose submission. They became tributaries, paying massive amounts of gold and silver to Assyrian kings. But some refused to kneel. Tyre and Sidon launched desperate rebellions. King Elulaeus of Tyre united the Phoenician cities and held out for over 2 decades. But the Assyrians were relentless. In 677 BC, King Esarhaddon made an example of Sidon. He didn't just conquer it, he erased it. Every inhabitant was executed or deported. The city was razed and its population replaced with foreigners. This destruction scattered the Phoenicians across the Mediterranean, strengthening their western colonies. But it also set up the conditions for the most shocking discovery in recent archaeological history. Earlier this year, scientists published a groundbreaking study that challenged all of our previous understandings about the Phoenicians. They analyzed ancient DNA from Punic sites across the Mediterranean. The results were shocking. The Phoenicians in the West weren't genetically Phoenician at all. Out of 103 ancient Punic individuals tested, only 3 had substantial Levantine ancestry. 3. The rest? They were locals who had adopted Phoenician culture. Think about what this means. Carthage, the greatest rival of Rome, the city that almost conquered the Mediterranean. It wasn't populated by Phoenician colonists. It was populated by North Africans and Sicilians who became culturally Phoenician. This creates one of history's greatest paradoxes: complete cultural continuity with total genetic discontinuity. It's like discovering that everyone who speaks English in America isn't actually from England, which, when you think about it, makes perfect sense. But in ancient times, this level of cultural adoption without genetic replacement was extraordinary. Meanwhile, in Lebanon, the genetic story is completely different. While Western Phoenicians were genetically local populations, modern Lebanese are direct genetic descendants of ancient Phoenicians. The DNA evidence shows remarkable continuity over 3,000 years. So, if you ever meet someone from Lebanon, you're looking at a direct descendant of the people who gave you your alphabet. Pretty amazing, right? The Punic Wars between Rome and Carthage were more than military conflicts. They were a clash between 2 different ways of organizing civilization. For over a century, these powers fought for control of the Mediterranean. The wars gave us Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants, one of history's most audacious military campaigns. But Rome's land-based empire ultimately triumphed over Carthage's sea-based network. In 146 BC, Roman legions led by Scipio Aemilianus ended the Third Punic War in the most brutal way possible. They didn't just conquer Carthage, they erased it. Every building destroyed, every inhabitant killed or enslaved, the ground salted so nothing would grow. In the east, the original Phoenicians faced a different fate: gradual assimilation. Under Persian, Greek, and Roman rule, their distinct identity slowly dissolved into the broader Mediterranean world. The Phoenician language disappeared. Their gods were forgotten. Their great cities became Roman provincial towns. Yet their greatest creation, the alphabet, lived on, spreading across the world as empires rose and fell. So here's the mind-bending truth about the Phoenicians. They disappeared completely while simultaneously conquering the world. Their political empire vanished. Their genetic line fractured between East and West. Their culture was absorbed into other civilizations. But their intellectual DNA, that 22-letter alphabet, became the foundation of human communication. Every time you read a book, send a text, or write your name, you're using Phoenician technology. This raises a fascinating question. In our globalized world of cultural exchange, migration, and technological spread, are we witnessing a new kind of Phoenician moment? Are we, all of us connected by digital networks and shared technologies, becoming the inheritors of that ancient Phoenician spirit? Citizens not of any single nation, but of the interconnected world they helped create. The Phoenicians may have vanished into history, but in the letters you're reading right now, in the global networks that connect us, in the very idea that trade and communication can unite distant peoples, they never really left. Follow Beyond 5000 for more amazing content.